Okay, so Be'ezras Hashem, today's shir is going to be a little bit more in the aspect of Daiga B'Levish Yasichin La'achirim, that according to Chazal can mean two different things, which are ultimately unified as one. That either Yasichana means suppress it from your mind, put it on the side, put it on the shelf, don't deal with it, even to repress it if necessary, because for the sake of Simcha in this world, a person has to even be willing to repress certain things. But the other Manda Amr says that it means to speak it out with another person. And ultimately, we believe in the talking cure. We believe in Ha'emanti ki adaber, that by speaking, a person alleviates the burden of the spirit, and that the speaking itself is the way that we engage with it and elevate it through the process that the Baal Shem Tov revealed to us of Hachna'a, Havdalah, and Hamtaka. By speaking about something that feels unspeakable, one now separates themselves through it because they've objectified it in diburim, divarim. It becomes a thing that I can look at and analyze. That's the first thing. I've made it smaller so that I can objectify it. Then I mavdil myself from it. Then I separate myself from it. I no longer see it as my identity. I no longer carry that element in a shame-oriented way. It doesn't destroy my ability to speak, but rather it is now something I could speak about. There's the hachna'a, the havdalah, and then there's the hamtaka, that through speaking about it, through elevating it, through engaging with those tsirufe osios, for those mixed up, jumbled up letters that are entraced and engraved within the very texture of the soul prior to them actually emerging as letters, the osios harashimu, those traces of letters that are the letters of the trace, which are mushrosh and the tihiru ilah and the oilam hamalbush and the true place of the Jewish neshama, those letters, that speech allows us to alleviate whatever the burden is. Ha'amanti ki adaber or nafshi yatsa b'diburai, that the nefesh, the thing that bears the weight of this worldly experience, finds escape. It finds escape, it finds relief, it finds a certain yitzia, the air that makes it so claustrophobic seems to dissipate a little bit through speaking about it. Ki b'simcha teitzeu, because ultimately that same yitzia, that taking out the intense weight of everything, that allows something to be deflated so that it can be dealt with in a calm and conscious way, comes about through speech. Nafshi yatsa b'diburo, the same way that ki b'simcha teitzeu, that yitzia, that vayetze Yaakov, that moving away from something comes about by utilizing language to uncover the possibilities of a narrative that gives birth to joy in it, which also allows me to step away from it, to reflect on it, to objectify it, and then to be able to sweeten it as well. We find that the general sense, the general mood that descends upon an individual when they find themselves in a katnas, when a person finds themselves in a katnas, when a person finds themselves in a choshech, that darkness, when we've spoken about in the past, Rabbi Nachman says that choshech, darkness, also means that something is being refused from the individual, something is being withheld from the individual. Now, withholding something would not be an issue if the person felt that it was something that they naturally had or desired, because then it would not have been Allah al daisim. It would have never been something that emerged in their mind to even want. Withholding is when I conceive of something as being rightfully mine, as something that I have access to, and then it gets withheld. That's ki loy chashachta bincha, like it says by the Akedah. Rabbi Nachman points out textually that chashachta bincha means you did not withhold your child, which means that darkness is an element of withholding. When a person finds themselves in that place where something is withheld from them, where there is a certain thing that the person feels that they need in order to reorient the mind to once again look at the world in a lens of calmness and menucha and simcha. Something has been lost. When a person loses that ability, when the horizon of their faith seems to hit a limit where the ability to allow the narrative of faith, to allow the comforting pastures of me menuchos, that calmness of spirit that has the deep awareness and the capacity to testify, in spite of the fact that there is no absolute evidence, that the deep awareness that b'mei menuchos yinahaleni, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you are leading us along clear pastures, you are leading us along calm waters, cool springs that irrigate the fields and illuminate our minds from the river that flows forth from Eden. In that place, a person can confront death. A person can say, Gam ki elech begeit salmaves, even though I walk in the valley in the shadow of death. It's not death itself, it's the shadow of death. It's the death-bringing speech of everyday experience where moments die and things fall apart, and that which is lost seems that it's always going to be lost and that it can't be retrieved, and that there are things that are just consistently getting swallowed up by the time and the space of existence in its apparent minhag of the oilam, where things just operate the way that they operate. When my Saba Schusia Ganalenu would talk about what he experienced in the Second World War in Auschwitz and in Gehenna on Earth, the language he would would use from Chazal is olam keminhago nohig. And when a person falls into that seemingly habituated, natural, necessary force of life in utter abandonment of reason or comfort or calmness or redemption, so then a person begins to fall sway into just life as it functions as a machine that swallows up and it takes away and it's overwhelming, etc., etc. But the reorientation that takes place when a person finds themselves in that place of choshech, when after all the attempts to utilize the tools of faith to try and spark that illumination, that torch of the faith that has previously helped a person in the past, in the tefillah, in the hisbodedus, in the simcha, in the residual lights of joy that exists at every moment in a person's soul, when those things seem irretrievable, when those things seem to have fallen into a place of concealment, into a stimud stimen, into a concealment within concealment, the heart cries out. There's something that takes place at that point of Yeush, at that point of apparent Yeush, where the mind feels that something is being withheld and it can't be retrieved because it's out of my power and I'm not in control whatsoever. And a person, because they feel that they're not in control, then they forget that there is one who has all control with it, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And without that next step of realizing that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the one with all control, we free float into that space of not having control, which breeds anxiety, which breeds fear, which breeds anger, which breeds resentment, which breeds closed-mindedness and ease towards anger and temper and a difficult way of functioning in the world and a short-temperedness and a lack of breath and the inability to take a deep breath through the nose to illuminate and irrigate the fields and the reya and the lungs to then again scream out to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that suffocating air and that stimud stimen and that concealment of concealment where it seems that the air has been taken out of the room, in that place a person has the capacity of making a tnua, a movement, a pivot. And what is that pivot based on? The pivot is based on absolutely nothing but the pivot itself. Emuna at that point is uncovered to exist even where its limit said that it could not exist anymore. The elasticity of faith carries a person wherever they are. It is something that leads a person to where they are, and then it disappears for a moment. It goes underneath, and a person is looking around at this new expanse, at this new territory that is seemingly devoid of the life-giving emuna that was previously there, because unbeknownst to us, we're unaware that it is emuna that has taken us even farther than we could have ever imagined. In that moment of sila kadas, of the hastaras emuna, where malchus is yored into biyah, where malchus conceals itself and it falls down and its legs dangle into death and it falls into a place of speechlessness, and the eitz hadas tevera, and that place of misa and the ilana desfeik and that choshech hakafel mechupel, it's specifically there that suddenly bazois yavo Aaron, we come to realize that bazois yavo Aaron, I am Aaron. How did I get in bazois? It was through the emuna that I was so convinced was gone, and suddenly lepesa pisom, there's an ormufla remala that is niskala, and all of the hastar and all of the choshech is revealed to have been just a kli that was saturated with that light of emuna that was hidden, waiting to be revealed at the moment, at the tenua of the tendency towards yeish and the unwillingness towards giving up hope, the uncovering of the secret light of ein shum yeish ba'ilam klal that exists at the heart of the isser of asur lehit yeish, as we've spoken about. First and foremost, we are forbidden to give up hope, but if a person falls against that forbidden nature of hopelessness and transgresses into a place of apparent hopelessness, then the second operating principle that Rabbi Nachman describes takes shape, which is ein shum yeish ba'ilam klal, that even in this place of seemingly hopelessness and seeming yeush, where Amuna seemed to have disappeared, it's bazois yavo Aaron ela kodesh, that the aris itself, the ground itself, the koyach hamoshech, the gravitational pull of all things back to the source, to the tzaddik, to the Torah, to tefillah, to the Shechina Hakadosha, to Or Ein Sof Mamish, to Atzmusi Yisbarach Kavyachol, to every element that is good in our hearts and in the heart of the world, in spite of all other appearances. At that moment, everything is neshapech. Yesh inyan sheyitapech hakol letova, and this inyan is simply an inyan. It's not anything specific. It is the knowledge that there's always an inyan. There's always a way. Yesh inyan sheyitapech lekol letova. If it was kept to a particular form of behavior, then there might be a particular circumstance where it would say this inyan is not accessible to me, and therefore I can't transform it into the good. But yesh inyan she'itapecha kol l'tova, that just as Rabbi Nachman and Rabbi Nassan never specify where a person has fallen, kishadam nofel lemakom shenofel, because it's a subjective experience that is disconnected and untethered by any specificity of content of one's experience. It applies across the board, equidistant at every single point, from the lowest to the highest, as it's true for all of the tzaddikim and all of the Torah of the true tzaddikim, which is yored like the Meimei Hayam that descend like the waters of the sea from above to below, as Rabbi Nassan is masbir. when he talks about the secret of Yam HaChachma and the ability to float amongst the ways of the world, sitting on the secret that there's a Torah to be found everywhere. Yesh inyan she'ithapecha kol l'tova. In this tenua, suddenly there is a light of Emunah that bursts forth, and this light of Emunah is not an explosive light. It does not take a person directly into flights of fancy or transcendence or anything like that. What it does is it offers a person the smooth and soft, comforting voice of Emuna, Ha'emanti ki adaber, Ha'emanti ki adaber, the murmuring of Emuna, the whispering to the self, the hispoidus minayube, the beginning to speak to the self and to silence the self and to silence the fear of the self and to come back to the self and find the Nakuda of Emuna again, and find the Nakuda Hashayach Libo Be'esazos, and reattach the one's mind to the world of Emuna, which is always ever present in a person's life. From that place of Emuna, a person has the capacity of transforming the gates Almavis, the Halal, into Chayim. It's a secret of Vayich Yaakov Be'eretz Mitzrayim Shavas Shana. Mitzrayim is death. Mitzrayim is Gehenna. Mitzrayim is the opposite of everything good. Mitzrayim is the place of concealment and contraction and death-bringing speech and avodah zara and shnios and kfira ba'atzmenu and bilbul hadas and katsiras af and katsiras ruach and short-breathness and anger and ease towards anger and all of the different difficult elements. But it's specifically there that Yaakov had the capacity to scream Vayechi Yaakov, that there's an uncovering of life in the Halal. And Rashi already says that why is this Parsha stuma? Why is this Parsha a closed Parsha? It's a closed Parsha because one of two things. It's a closed Parsha because it was the beginning, the subversive steps that were being taken into the enslavement of the Jewish people, which means the enslavement of the mind to any given considerations with regards to what's happening outside of me. As if I need certain circumstances in my life to provide me the fuel for Emuna. Once I make Emuna a davar that is tali b'davar, then I lose the access to Emuna because Emuna is all encompassing. If Emuna is to mean anything, it has to mean everything. And the moment I make my Emuna contingent upon any given circumstance in my life is the moment that my Emuna is secondary, it's accidental. And in this moment, in the beginning of the Shibud, where Yaakov Avinu dies, the tzaddik is ne'elam, there's a feeling of Moshe is ne'elam, that the hiskashus to the tzaddik emes is undergoing a certain invisibility, and a person loses their step, and a person loses that rope of life that they've been holding on to. But ultimately, it's specifically there that we uncover the secret that Yaakov Avinu lo meis, and the hiskashus to tzaddik emes, and the hiskashus to the Torah and to Amunah. It's a perpetual thing, and this is the secret of Bikesh Yaakov Legala Tzaketz. Rashi's second opinion as to why this is a Parsha Stuma. It's because Yaakov Avinu wanted to reveal the redemption, but ultimately it was taken away from him. But what our tzaddikim are masbir, what the Meimarim is masbir, what the Yismach Yisrael is masbir, what the Ari is masbir, what the tzaddikim are all masbir is that Yaakov Avinu didn't lose the gates. Yaakov Avinu didn't lose access to redemption. But Sasa Mimenu is the secret of redemption, that it's specifically when it appears to be most concealed and removed from an individual, it's specifically there that Bezois Yavo Aron El Kodesh, I come to realize that I've been standing in Amuna all along. That's why I'm not able to feel it. It's not that I'm not able to feel it because I don't have it. I'm not able to feel it because I am it. I can't feel it because it's me. Va'ani tefillah. And in that place of Va'ani tefillah, we come upon the possibility to see the goodness of Yerushalayim, Liros b'toiv Yerushalayim, to uncover the goodness that exists in all things, to uncover the light of positivity that exists in any experience in a person's life, in any moment in a person's life. Any moment that the world goes through, that anything goes through. And the ground of Emunah is the fertile ground for the secret of Mashiach Tzidkenu, for the secret of Simcha, Ki b'simcha teitzeu. And just to read a tefillah from Rav Avram ben Rav Nachman, who was Dor Revi'i Asher Yashuvu Heina, the secret of the Tzaddik Emes coming back to Yerushalayim, as the Rebbe describes so often in Shtaim Shu Echad Umam Yerushalayim. And there's a chelek, sorry, a chelek in Koich Ve'or, Sasin of Simcha. Rebbeinu Shalom, Master of the Universe, Avisha Bashamayim, Father in Heaven, Chemdas Levavi, the desire of my heart, Chiyusi v'ta'anugi hanitzchi, my vitality and the perpetual pleasure that drives every element of myself. Lefanecha nigla es kol hasla'a asher matzasanu. In front of you is revealed all of the burden and all of the struggle that we find ourselves in. Ves kol hashetef mayim rabim ha'over alai b'chol eis v'eis. And the roaring flames, the roaring waves of water that arise above me at every moment. Ad shekama v'kama pa'amim kasha v'kaved elai ma'oid afilu levakesh ala simcha. To the degree that there are times where it's even impossible for me or very difficult for me to even ask for simcha, to ask you, Ribono Shel Olam, for the capacity to be happy. Because there's so many times where the bitterness is so bitter to me, and bitterness like this bitterness to the degree that one can't even refer to this as Mariris. Rak b'shem hamushal. That's simply a borrowed term to describe the experience one is going through. Because there's no point of reference that I could use to describe this feeling of the opposite of simcha. There's no pain in the world that can be aligned with this inner pain. And all of the language that I use doesn't even hold a candle to the actual experience. Aval im kol zois, but nevertheless, im kol zois gadlu ve'atzmu v'shagvur emimcha al kol bracha v'tila. Nevertheless, your greatness and your strength and your grandeur arise above all of these things, in your blessings and your praise. Ki hein kol tuchal v'lo yivatzim mimcha mizima. Because you're all capable and there's nothing that is blocked from you. Ubiyadcha v'koicha ata gam ata l'chachmenu. Now it's in your hands and in your power, Ribono Shel Olam, even now, to give us the wisdom, even now, lahavinenu, and the understanding, uloidienu, and to teach us eitzos amitios, true suggestions rooted in the true tzaddikim, eitzos amukos mitoich ayimek hachoshech shen l'chadasi, deep insight into the human condition that allows us to find that secret of simcha in the depths of the darkness that one finds themselves in. To the degree that I have the ability to transform even these moans and sighs and these cries that have been drawn upon me and on others, as all of them will be transformed. All of them will be transformed in the strength of the source of the connectivity to the source of Simcha and Sason, of Sason and Simcha, to the secret of the joy in all matters of joy. Because the truth of the matter is that the more and more these issues grow, the more and more the wounds begin to be. So too, in accordance with that growth, the connection to you in eternity, perpetually, at every moment, is going to grow and grow and grow. To the degree that all of the pain that one is experiencing is not going to be considered as anything, one of the inner pain is not going to be considered as anything in the face of the connectivity to your great name, to find joy in your name. The secret of finding joy, the secret of finding the secret nakuda of joy, to find that secret path of joy, to transform the bitterness of death into the place of simcha, and to transform that halal into a place of chayim, and to realize that the katnus hamoichin and every level of katnus, as real as it is and as much as it is felt, and every aspect of spiritual katnus that a person finds themselves in at any moment that they find themselves lost and abandoned, and all of the metaphors that a person can possibly imagine in their own inner spiritual landscape and relationship to HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the own way that they relate to him. Each and every person knows. Each and every person knows how desperately we must be in search of that nikud of simcha, and that nikud of the machshava. Simcha and machshava is the same os. Emuna is something that I choose to encounter. Derech emuna b'charti, I am choosing the path of faith. Ki mitzvosecha shavisi, because I have placed your mitzvos in front of me always. Mitzvah gedolah liyos b'simcha, this mitzvah of simcha, simcha tmidus, the ability of a human being to up and make themselves happy, to machfreilich sein, to act like a fool in their own minds, to trick themselves into joy, to stumble our way into joy. And the joy is built upon an emuna in the joy, an emuna in simcha. An emuna in simcha, the shirish of all things, is the emuna in the simcha that is going to emerge in the future. And in accordance with the Amunah that we have in the Makomos Astumos in our lives, in the situm, in that place where Rachik mimeni menachem yeshav nashi, where it appears that an individual is just incapable of retrieving that faith, that spark of faith necessary to illuminate the darkness of their mind. When a person finds himself there, it's specifically there that a Kadosh Baruch Hu comes to reveal that Gam Keilach B'Getz Hamavis Lo Yirara Kiati Imadi Gam Ha'olam Nasan Belibam Gam Ha'olam Nasan Belibam Gam Oila Imcha, the secret of Gam, that a Kadosh Baruch Hu is going to take us out of Mitzrayim, not only take us out of Mitzrayim, but bring us more strength. The Gam Charvoina Zachar Latov, the secret of Rabban Gamliel, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is also for me the secret of Nachum Ish Gamzu, the secret of this also is for the good, the secret of the Magam game, the person who can't speak because they're stuttering over themselves, but in truth what they're doing is just speaking twice in the process of tefillah, and we should be zoichet to the secret of Gam Kielech B'Getz Hamavis Lo Yirara Kiati Madi, and that Gam Netzach Yisrael La Yishaker, and that Gam Ha'olam Nasan Belibam, to bring us to the place of the Megillah, which is the Osios of Gam, and to bring us to a place of Nacham Ish Gamzu and Gam Chavon Zachar Latov, to include all of the sadness and all of the difficulty and all of the richuk in each level that a person feels it within the dance of Simcha Be'ezras Hashem.